The diplomatic shuttle's hull screamed as it tore through Zephyria's crimson atmosphere. Captain Marcus Stone gripped the controls, sweat streaming down his face as alarms blared around him. The peace negotiations had gone wrong, terribly wrong. And now he was plummeting toward an alien world with a damaged ship and fading hope. Impact came like thunder. Marcus felt his body slam against the restraints as the shuttle carved a brutal path through crystalline trees that shattered like glass. When silence finally fell, he tasted blood and smelled burning electronics. His left shoulder throbbed, and something warm trickled down his forehead, emerging from the wreckage. Marcus surveyed the alien landscape. Towering spires of what looked like living crystal reached toward twin purple suns. The air tasted metallic, but his scanner showed it was breathable. In the distance, he heard something that made his heart stop, a cry of pain. Distinctly not human. Following the sound, Marcus found her collapsed beneath a fallen crystal branch. She was unlike anything he had ever seen, humanoid, but with skin that glowed with a soft blue luminescence. Hair like silver starlight and eyes that held depths of ancient wisdom. Her leg was trapped, bleeding a substance that sparkled like liquid diamonds. She looked up at him with those mesmerizing eyes, fear and defiance warring in their depths. When she spoke, the words were musical, but incomprehensible. Marcus raised his hand slowly, showing he meant no harm. He had come to Zephyria to forge peace between their peoples, not to add another casualty to this war. Carefully, Marcus lifted the crystal branch, his injured shoulder protesting. She gasped as the weight lifted, her luminescent skin pulsing brighter with what he assumed was pain. From his medical kit, he retrieved a universal healing gel. Designed to work on most known alien physiologies, she watched him with growing curiosity as he tended to her wound. When their fingers touched as he applied the bandage, an electric shock ran between them. Not painful, but something else entirely, a connection that transcended species. She said something softly, touching her chest, then pointing at him. Marcus understood. "Marcus," he said, pressing his hand to his heart. She repeated it, her accent making his name sound like music. "Kira," she replied, her voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. As Zephyria's twin suns began to set, casting the crystal forest in an ethereal glow, Marcus realized that this crash might not have been the disaster he thought. Sometimes, the universe had its own plans for bringing souls together. Sanctuary in the Crystal Caves night fell quickly on Zephyria, bringing with it a bone-deep cold that Marcus hadn't expected. Kira struggled to stand, her injured leg buckling under her weight. Without hesitation, Marcus slipped his arm around her waist, feeling the warmth of her luminescent skin through her torn clothing. She tensed at first, then relaxed into his support. She pointed toward a cluster of tall crystal formations, speaking urgently in her musical language. Marcus didn't understand the words, but her tone was clear. They needed shelter. Together, they made their way across the rocky terrain. Kira's soft glow, providing the only light in the alien darkness, the cave entrance, was hidden behind a curtain of hanging crystals that chimed softly in the wind. Inside, the walls pulsed with a gentle phosphorescence, creating an almost romantic atmosphere that made Marcus acutely aware of Kira's presence beside him. The cave was warm, heated by some natural geothermal source. Kira collapsed gratefully onto a bed of soft, moss-like growth. Marcus set up a small emergency beacon, its red light blinking against the cave walls. When he turned back, he found Kira watching him intently, her silver hair catching the crystal light like starfire. She began to speak slowly, pointing to objects around the cave and saying their names in her language. Marcus caught on quickly, reciprocating with English words. "Crystal," he said, touching the wall. "Veltar," she replied. Their impromptu language lesson became a game, filled with laughter and growing understanding. As the night grew colder, they huddled closer together for warmth. Marcus felt Kira shiver despite her natural luminescence, and he pulled his emergency blanket around both of them. The intimacy of the moment wasn't lost on either of them. Her head found its way to his shoulder, and Marcus breathed in her scent like ozone and starlight. "Why were you alone in the forest?" Marcus asked softly, using the few words he'd learned. Kira's expression darkened, and she spoke a name with obvious hatred, Vex Corin, from her gestures and tone. Marcus understood. She was running from someone dangerous. She touched the human insignia on his uniform, then placed her hand over his heart. Her touch sent warmth spreading through his chest. Through halting words and gestures, she made him understand that she knew of his people's arrival, knew of the failed negotiations. But unlike the others of her kind, she believed in the possibility of peace, as sleep began to claim them both. Kira curled against Marcus's side, her luminescence dimming to a soft, pulsing rhythm that matched his heartbeat. In the crystal cave on an alien world, two souls from different stars found comfort in each other's arms. The hunter's pursuit, Marcus, woke to the sound of distant engines, the high-pitched whine of alien aircraft cutting through the morning air. Kira was already alert, her skin flashing in rapid pulses of blue and white, clearly some form of alarm response. She gripped his arm, her eyes wide with terror. Vex Corin, she whispered, the name like poison on her lips. Through urgent gestures and the words they'd shared, she made him understand. The general was hunting her, and he had found their trail. Marcus's military training kicked in immediately. He surveyed their surroundings with tactical precision, noting escape routes and defensive positions. The crystal cave system extended deeper into the mountain. They could use that. But first, he needed to buy them time. Pulling out his combat knife, Marcus began setting up tripwires using emergency cable from his kit. Kira watched in fascination as he created a series of simple but effective traps near the cave entrance. When he explained his plan through gestures, she smiled, the first real smile he'd seen from her, and it took his breath away. The sound of boots on crystal grew closer. Kira led Marcus deeper into the cave system, her natural glow lighting their path through passages that sparkled like the inside of a geode. Behind them, he heard shouts of anger and confusion as the first pursuers triggered his traps in a wider chamber. They paused to catch their breath. Kira turned to Marcus, her eyes intense with emotion. She spoke rapidly in her own language, then switched to halting English. You. Help me, why? Marcus found himself lost in those luminous eyes. Because it's right, he said simply. Because you needed help. Because... ... double quotes. Hardly believing what he was about to admit, because I care about you, understanding transcended language barriers. Kira's hand came up to cup his face, her skin warm and electric against his cheek. When she leaned closer, Marcus met her halfway, their lips coming together in a kiss that sent shockwaves through both their bodies. The moment was shattered by the echo of voices in the tunnels behind them. Corin's hunters had found their way past the traps. Kira pulled back, her skin now pulsing with determination rather than fear. She grabbed Marcus's hand and led him toward a vertical shaft that glowed with natural light from above. Up, she said in English, pointing to handholds carved into the crystal wall. We climb. As they began their ascent, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that everything had changed with that kiss. He was no longer just trying to survive, he was fighting for something worth living for. The hunt was far from over, but they would face it together. Bonds forged in battlethea emerged from the crystal shaft onto a plateau, overlooking Zephyria's vast landscape. The twin suns cast everything in shades of purple and gold, but Marcus had no time to appreciate the alien beauty. Below them, Vex Corin's forces spread out in a tactical formation, professional, dangerous, and closing in fast. Kira's skin pulsed with rapid patterns of light that Marcus was beginning to recognize as her species. A form of communication. She was signaling to someone, but who? His question was answered when answering flashes came from the crystal formations around them. They weren't alone. My people, Kira explained in broken English, touching her heart. Rebels, fight Corin. Her expression hardened with resolve. Fight for freedom. Marcus assessed their situation with military precision. Corin's forces had superior numbers and firepower, but they were in unfamiliar terrain. The rebels had the advantage of knowing the crystal formations. And Marcus had something else, human tactical thinking that their enemies wouldn't expect. Working quickly. Marcus outlined a plan using the crystals they'd collected and his remaining tech. Kira translated for her rebel allies, her luminescent skin brightening with excitement as she understood his strategy. Human guerrilla warfare tactics combined with alien knowledge of the terrain, it just might work. The battle began. At noon, when Corrin himself appeared at the head of his forces, a towering figure in ornate armor that reflected Zephyria's twin suns. His voice boomed across the plateau in the alien tongue. Clearly demanding Kira's surrender, Marcus felt her tense beside him, and without thinking, he reached for her hand. Their fingers intertwined, human warmth meeting alien luminescence. "Together," he said simply. She nodded, understanding passing between them deeper than words. The first wave of attackers met carefully, placed crystal charges that Marcus had rigged with his ship's power cells. Explosions of light and sound scattered the advancing soldiers, giving the rebels time to strike from concealed positions. Marcus found himself fighting alongside beings he'd only read about in diplomatic briefings, their bioluminescent weapons painting the battlefield in impossible colors. In the chaos, he lost sight of Kira. Panic seized him until he spotted her engaging Corrin's lieutenant in single combat, her movements fluid and deadly. But she was tiring, her glow dimming with exhaustion. Marcus didn't think he acted. Launching himself between Kira and her opponent's energy blade, he felt searing pain lance through his side as the weapon found its mark. As he collapsed, his last sight was of Kira's face. Her eyes wide with horror and something else. Love. Pure and desperate. Darkness claimed him as her luminescent hands pressed against his wounds. Her voice calling his name like a prayer to alien stars. Love transcends world's consciousness, returns slowly, accompanied by warmth and the soft sound of crystalline music. Marcus opened his eyes to find himself in a cavern unlike any he'd seen. The walls themselves seemed alive. Pulsing with healing light, Kira sat beside him, her hands glowing as she channeled some form of bioenergy into his healing wounds. "You live?" she whispered in English. Tears of liquid light streaming down her face. Thought you were gone?" Her accent made the words even more beautiful, and Marcus realized he loved the sound of her voice in any language. He tried to sit up, wincing at the pain in his side. Kira's hands pressed gently against his chest, keeping him still. "Rest," she said. "Heal." Her touch was electric, sending waves of genuine healing energy through his body. Whatever her people's abilities were, they went far beyond anything human science had discovered. "Corrin?" Marcus asked, though part of him didn't want to know. Kira's expression darkened briefly, then cleared. "Dead. Rebels won." "Your plan. It worked." Pride and gratitude shone in her luminescent eyes. "My people free now?" "Because of you?" Over the following days, as Marcus recovered under Kira's tender care, they shared more than just words. She taught him about her world's history, about the oppression her people had suffered under Corrin's regime. He told her about Earth, about humanity's own struggles for freedom, about the diplomatic mission that had brought him here. Their conversations grew more intimate as Marcus healed. Kira would lie beside him in the healing chamber, her skin providing a soft, romantic glow in the darkness. They explored each other's worlds through stories, through touches that sent electricity dancing between different biologies, through kisses that proved love truly was universal. On the seventh day, the rescue ships arrived, both human and Zephyrian vessels, flying in formation. The sight of former enemies working together brought tears to Marcus's eyes. The peace negotiations he'd come to conduct were happening after all, just not the way anyone had planned. As they prepared to leave the crystal caves, Kira took his hand. "What happens now?" she asked. Her English much improved after their days together. Marcus looked at her, this extraordinary being who had saved not just his life but his heart. "Now we build bridges," he said, bringing her luminescent hand to his lips. "Between our worlds, between our peoples, together, the stars held infinite possibilities." And for the first time since leaving Earth, Marcus knew exactly where home was, wherever Kira's light could guide him through the darkness of space. Eternal bonds across the cosmos. 1 year later, Marcus stood in the Grand Assembly Hall of New Haven. the first joint human-Zephyrian colony established on the neutral world of Kepler Prime. The massive dome overhead displayed a perfect view of the cosmos, stars twinkling like diamonds against velvet darkness. Today marked the anniversary of their first meeting in that crystal cave, and the celebration would be remembered across both worlds for generations to come. The transformation had been extraordinary. What began as a desperate crash landing had blossomed into the greatest diplomatic success in human history. The peace accords signed in that very hall had ended decades of mistrust and opened new frontiers for both species. Trade routes now connected Earth and Zephyria, carrying not just goods, but ideas, art, and dreams between worlds. Kira entered the hall wearing the ceremonial robes of a peace ambassador, her bioluminescent skin creating patterns that told the story of their journey in the ancient visual language of her people. The golden threads that had appeared after their bonding ceremony now covered her arms like living jewelry, pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. She had become the bridge between their peoples, translating not just languages, but entire ways of thinking. "Are you ready for this?" she asked, approaching with that graceful walk that still took his breath away. Today they would announce the next phase of the integration project, the establishment of mixed crews for deep space exploration missions. Humans and Zephyrians working together to push the boundaries of known space even further. Marcus took her luminescent hand, feeling the familiar electric connection that sparked between them. Their bonding had become legendary among both species, proof that love could transcend any barrier. Human scientists had discovered that prolonged contact with Zephyrian healing energy was changing human DNA in fascinating ways. Some humans were developing enhanced intuition, improved healing abilities, even limited bioluminescence. Evolution was happening in real time, guided by love rather than survival pressure. "Look at what we've built," Marcus said, gesturing to the crowd gathering below. Human children played alongside young Zephyrians, their laughter creating a universal music that needed no translation. Elderly humans sat in crystal healing chambers, while Zephyrian elders shared stories of Earth through human neural interface technology. Artists from both worlds collaborated on sculptures that combined human engineering with Zephyrian bioarchitecture, creating beauty that neither species could have achieved alone. The ceremony began with the lighting of the Unity Flame, a hybrid technology that burned with both human plasma and Zephyrian crystal energy, creating a fire that shifted through colors unknown on either homeworld. As Marcus and Kira stepped forward to address the assembly, their hands intertwined, he felt the weight of history settling around them. "When I crashed on Zephyria," Marcus began, his voice carrying to every corner of the dome, "I thought my mission had failed. I was wrong. It had just begun in a way no one could have imagined." Kira's skin brightened, translating his emotions into visual poetry for her people. "Love," she added in perfect English, then repeated in Zephyrian, "is the most powerful force in the universe. It breaks down walls, heals wounds, and builds bridges across impossible distances." As the crowd erupted in cheers and bioluminescent displays, Marcus pulled Kira close. The scar on his side, where he'd been wounded protecting her, had healed completely thanks to her people's gifts. But more than his body had been healed, his heart, his hope, his belief in the possibility of peace had all been restored by this extraordinary woman who had chosen to love him across the vast differences between their species. The exploration ships were launching next month, carrying mixed crews to distant galaxies. Their children, and Marcus and Kira had decided to start a family, would grow up among the stars. Citizens of the cosmos rather than any single world, they would inherit a universe where differences were celebrated, where love conquered fear, and where the greatest adventures still lay ahead in the infinite darkness between distant suns. Under the dome of New Haven, surrounded by the laughter of two species learning to become one people, Marcus kissed his luminescent wife and knew that their love story was just the beginning of a much grander tale that would echo across the stars for millennia to come.